Okay, I'll simultaneously keep on adding people when I see this. I'll in the meantime continue with this. Please stop editing my screen. Please, I request you. Please stop editing. I will reshare. Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. All right. So as I was talking about that the three states of Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh and Gujarat have already come up with the policies that dilute a number of labor laws, basically with an aim to provide investment stimulus. Please stop editing my screen. Basically to provide investment stimulus to the industries. I will share a new one. It's this entire platform is new for you as well as me, so I request all of us to please help each other learn and start with this new kind of a I've admitted. Oh, yeah. All right. So what I'm talking about is that to attack the industries, what really are these labor laws and what have these states done, these three states that we're talking about. So let us just understand what exactly these states are doing. Just give me 1 second. Yeah. So, as you can see, we keep on talking about labor laws, labor laws, labor laws. So what exactly are these labor laws? You will be surprised that there really is not one typical labor law. By it's a huge estimate only that there are over 200 state laws and close to 50 central laws, which totally make up labor laws in our country. Broadly speaking, they can be divided into 4 categories, as you can see in this chart, which I have taken courtesy Indian Express. These are the 4 categories of the labor laws that we can put our thing into. And the labor laws, these labor laws, now what is the criticism? These labor laws are often criticized as being inflexible because these are considered as impediment for increasing the manufacturing output. They, many industrialists say that since they put the labor interest paramount, they often hamper our industry's interest. They hamper the industry interest. In fact, the industrialists have always tried avoiding the same. That is the main reason why more than 90% of our workforce is presently employed informally. Even those in the organized sector. That is why we always have this discrepancy in the categorization, whether these are informal labor or unorganized sector, because people even in the organized sector are employed informally because the employers prefer to employ them without any formal contracts. So organized sector and informal sector, this is the distinction, that even though people are in the organized sector but informally employed because they are not really bound by any formal contracts. So with the dilution of these labor laws that have now been announced by the 3 Indian states, some of the labor laws that are no longer going to be applicable are, I'll just put on the next slide. So as you can see, these are the labor laws that are really going to not be laws from now on. The Minimum Wages Act, the Maternity Benefit Act, equal remuneration, manage the waiting room and everything here. Okay, now let me go on to the impact of these. Are they really going to help? Are they really going to help increase our manufacturing output is the pertinent question. So let's talk about the likely impact. Now, if all the labor laws are, if all these labor laws are removed, most employment will effectively turn informal and bring down the wage rate sharply. And there's no way for any worker to even seek grievance redressal. Now, with the wages down, this will further cause a fall in the purchasing power of the masses, causing a huge dent in the already depressed demand in the economy, thus making the overall recovery process even slower. As I was talking about earlier also, that there's going to be This is a complex phenomenon because there's going to be demand side problems as well as supply side problems. So in an attempt to tackle the supply side problems, what the economists feel that we are even creating problem from the demand side, because this is going to depress the purchasing power of the people in the economy. So this brings us to the vital question of, could these governments have done something else and a possible policy option for the center to explore? Thankfully, it's only these 3 states which have done this, which have explored this route right now. So let us see whether the center can undo this, or if they do not want to undo, can they look at the possible policy option? What I feel is, and some economists, there are certain economists like Professor Ravi Srivastava who have also voiced this opinion, that instead of creating the exploitative conditions for the workers, the government should have, as most of the governments have done across the world, as you can see from this chart which I've shown on the right side, that they have partnered with the industry, the manufacturing sector specifically, and allocated 3 to 5% of the GDP towards sharing the wage burden and ensuring the health of the laborers. So can our central government also think of doing this rather than creating a huge, you can say, basically these labor laws have been diluted so that the industrialists do not feel the crunch of making compulsory payments, EPF payments, maternity benefits, and a number of other laws that I talked about in the previous slide. So can the center rather give certain percentage of the GDP as a help to the industrialists so that the labor interest is also paramount, and the industrialists and the manufacturing sector's interest is also taken care of. So besides this wage sharing, this comprehensive central package may constitute a number of provisions. They can have, this comprehensive central package can have a number of provisions like I've mentioned here. They can have an extension on utility and social security payments. The government can help that. We can partially let the industrialists and the manufacturing sector pay, or we can delay the payments of the GST. We all know that in the pre-COVID-19 times, the GST is something which had anyway been, which had not really found a lot of flavor with the manufacturing sector. The manufacturing slowed down. Can the government think about partial or delayed payments of the GST? We can give enhanced credit access, which is being taken care of by these MSME reforms, and the package that the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan that the Honorable Prime Minister has talked about. And we can also, the government can also think of competitive financial incentives like tax holidays and preferential tax rates. This is what I talked about in the beginning of the slide also, and this is the measure which may encourage Japanese and South Korean companies which are looking to shift their production out of China to, please, Dr. G.P. Bhargav, I request you to mute yourself, so that they can be lured out of China into India. As I mentioned in the previous slide, are getting attracted towards Vietnam because of the infrastructure and very flexible norms there. So if Indian governments start giving tax holidays and preferential tax rates, then maybe these companies can be lured to India. Can be, I request you to please. I am just pausing for a moment so that I can, they have muted themselves. Thank you so much. Companies have already helped. In the meantime, just to give a boost is what I've shared this clip here, that there are also companies like Asian Paints which are raising their employee salaries as a measure to boost the employee morale, which I'm sure not very many are doing. So if this is what the Asian Paints can think of, the government can also think of as providing certain wage subsidies so that the manufacturing sector can pick up. And this vocal for local thing that I was talking about, this slogan of our Honorable Prime Minister can actually be nurtured to its highest level. So now, summing up this entire thing, let us look at the possible short to long-term strategies for India to boost manufacturing and also simultaneously aim to enhance exports and fill the void which is likely created due to reduced demand for the made in China goods. I have listed out 3 strategies here. If you see, as a short-term strategy, that is in strategy 1, India can look for replacing China in certain manufacturing sectors where it has the comparative advantage. Then moving on to the medium-term strategy of strengthening its trading relationships, specifically within the ASEAN and the EU zones. And in the long term, when if we hopefully see is all this is all something which is going on the hope that the COVID situation is going to get eased as the time passes. We will have a vaccine for it. The effect of it is going to be mitigated in the long run. So in the long term, which this long term can stretch even up to a year and beyond, we can think of picking up domestic manufacturing, with India looking for entering into R&D collaborations with Chinese companies. I once again reiterate here that the vocal for local strategy of the Honorable Prime Minister has to be seen in the right perspective. It does not mean shun FDI. All it means is that we should use FDI to make in India, to buy. The Prime Minister is urging, the Honorable Prime Minister Sir is urging the Indians to buy the goods that have been locally produced. I once again reiterate that maybe with the FDI, that maybe with the help of the foreign R&D also, or foreign investments, but the goods should be produced and made in India. To conclude now, I can say that the next few years are going to see a fundamental change in how the manufacturing and the industries in India operate, not only in India, I should say, but the world over. Opportunities may expand many-fold in cryptocurrency, fintech, artificial intelligence and machine learning, blockchain technology, only to mention a few. Like, we are learning to operate on this new platform, so we all will have to become savvy to understand all these things so that the manufacturing sector can pick up. At the same time, countries shall undertake reform to strengthen the digital economy and e-commerce. Manufacturing sector can only pick up if it'll have to respond very swiftly and in a steadfast manner to these emerging trends and challenges. Just a second. People in the meeting room. Okay, trends. So simultaneous structural reforms are definitely inevitable. Higher spending on food security, nutrition and livelihoods, public health, technology and innovation, strengthening international trade, capital flow, smart and green logistics, fighting poverty, enhancing human capital and education standards, strengthening institutions and governance, among various other things, are certain policy incentives that merit government's attention. Indian manufacturing sector will have to strive to move from the present trend of assembly line industries to make in India industries. I will just take a few minutes here to explain the difference between, I'm sure many of you would be aware too. Presently, as you know, most of the industries, our manufacturing sector is focusing on assembly line industries. Various parts are manufactured in different parts of the world, and they are only assembled in the as supply chain in the Indian units. Now, what the Honorable Prime Minister of India, we have to look local, we have to make in India. We have to strive away from assembly line manufacturing to proper manufacturing, which is talking about the end being produced in India. This would involve expanding domestic capacity and the capability by augmenting the current capabilities that we have and adding fresh ones in a planned, focused and strategic manner. Then only can we hope to move from an Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is a self-reliant India, and move from Jan to Jahan to a new slogan, which I'm saying, Vasudev Kutumbam.